Greetings, traveller. Welcome to the world of S. Robert Speel. Call me Bob. Today I will take you far beyond the realms of your imagination. Not my imagination, because my imagination's brilliant, but yours. To worlds of wonder and excitement. For today, I'm going to show you the secrets of creating adventure games. Let's get started.
Scenario Maker. It's a program that allows you to input your own scenario and actually helps you do so. Decide what objects and monsters you want to include. Then you run the Scenario Maker, which doesn't take very long to load. The best way to show using it, says Mr. Speel, is with an example. It's one where you are going to hunt for a fossil. So we're calling it a fossil hunt. And then ask for introduction. This is the introductory text. Don't just say Y for introduction. You have to actually type it all out. So this is the text that appears at the start of the game. And ask how many sudden death location types are there. There's one sudden death location type. This is a location, if you walk into it, you're going to die. And you get a special message for that. And this is going to be, you cannot swim and swiftly drown. Some kind of water feature. Then it asks how many location types there are. In this game, there are 4 types of location. The first type are the mountains. And once you describe the type of the location, it says, right, do you go on the mountains, do you go in the mountains, or can't you enter the mountains? In this case, you cannot enter the mountains. They're there to make the square map or the rectangular map a bit less obvious. Object needed to enter, well, nothing, because you can't enter the mountains. Here's where you enter if you enter a very high object number, that means it's instant death to enter, such as the gorge from the Horde of the Exile. Here is the plane. You go on a plane. Can you dig on the plane? Yes, you can. Object needed to enter. Walking on a plane, you don't need anything at all. So that's just 0. The last type of location is the lake. And you go on the lake. You can't dig in the lake, but you need an object to enter the lake. So this is object number 2. Remember, if you enter a very, very high number, higher than the number of objects you have, that'll be complete death. But here it's an object that exists, object number 2. And of course, you've made a list of your objects in advance, I hope. So if you don't have the object, put out message number 1, which is, you cannot swim and swiftly drown. Then you can have special descriptions. These are added to just the locations, rather than you're on a plane. You might have something else to say. So this will be, the first description is there are lakes to your south and east. So at a certain location, we put out a bit more information. Now, are we creating a grid or non-grid locations? If you create a grid, it sorts out all the exits for you, which makes life a bit easier. Here we're having a nice simple grid. As we can see from the map, we are 3 locations east-west and 4 north-south. So what it'll now do is create all the exits. So from position 1, you can go north, you can go east, and so on. Now, location 1 is mountains. Mountains are impassable. How many objects there are? There are 5 objects in the game. How many object descriptions? These add a bit more flavour to the game. You have 2 object descriptions. So when you look at an object, you're told its dimensions, also a bit of extra information. So the first object is the fossil. This is the ultimate goal of the game. Is there a description? Nah, can't be bothered with that. Then you need to know how long it is. If objects are too large, you can't pick them up. An object of 1 cubic metre is too big to pick up, as is an object greater than 15 kilos in weight. But it's only 3 kilos. Is it rigid? If it's rigid, it's good as a weapon. Its resistance is how tough it is. So the fossil is incredibly fragile. Can you eat it? Can you not eat it? Was it poisonous? Is it any good at attacking? Is it good at defending? Can you put things inside it? For example, a casket or a coffin. Is it in a place or an object? It's in a place. It's in the quarry, which is location number 11. And is it on the surface, buried a bit, or how deep is it buried? And it's buried deep. How many monster types are there? There are 2 types of monsters in this little game. And the first type of monster is the Jaguar. Its attack values, it's a good strong 7 attack. Its defense values 1 to 5. It's rubbish at defense. How strong is it in resistance? That's its health point. Does it have any treasure? No, it doesn't. Location. If you put 0, it doesn't work. If you get 0, it's literally in no place at all. How many are there? You can have multiple copies of the same monster, and after you kill the first, it'll move it somewhere else. And finally, we need to know, where do we start? How much money do you need to win? We need no money in this one. How many objects? 2 objects. We need the numbers of these objects. So object number 3, which you don't know what it is, and number 1, which is the fossil. You need to also go to location number 11, which is the quarry, and kill 0 monsters. We then get data displayed on the screen. You're encouraged to either copy the screen or write it down. I took screenshots, because this then gets typed in and saved as a scenario file. 8 to 10 is all the exits between locations, and these are all filled in for you. For example, the first one, 42001, that means it's mountains. You go north to 4, east to 2. And here we have the exit statements. You cannot swim and swiftly drown. And finally, 8810 is the numbers of the objects you need to win.
G'day, coppers. William Orris Tang here. Today we're going on a hunt, but not just any hunt. Oh no. I made my name hunting the deadly Horace and whacking him with a machete. But we're not hunting him today. Today, we ain't needing a machete. We're going to need special tools. Your tiny little hammer, a tiny little chisel, and a little brush. Because today, coppers, we is hunting for fossils. Don't confuse your fossil for your raw prawn, mate. It's all bony and dry. So, dig it up, whack it in a museum, and let's get back for some Castlemaine 4X.
The scenario as supplied by Mr. Speel, and this gives you a set of data statements. I'm now going to type some of these in to show you what you get, what you type in. And you combine these with the player program in order to get a game you can play. Put in your copyright for S. Robert Speel. Hi, Bob. Here we are. Here are the data statements, all kinds of numbers. You've got the title of the game and the list of objects. And what we're now typing in is the list of exits from each room. These were generated by the program for me. So here, the first data statement is 42001 space, which means you go from the first room, you go north to room 4, east to room 2. You can't go south or west, and it is terrain type number 1. The spaces indicate object needed to enter, and is there a special description or not? Because certain areas can have special descriptions. For example, the fourth space is 751022, which is to go north to 7, east to 5, south to 1, can't go west, and it has description number 2, and there is no object needed to enter. See, I'm clever, so I can decode these, so I know how these all work. After you typed it all in, you save to tape with a name that isn't too long. For example, fossil.sk. You just save the tape as a program. Once that's complete, you need to then load the player program into memory. This is the basic how it knows what go north means. Then do a merge command and merge the scenario in with it, which we're now doing. And this gets you a game you can actually play. This is our fossil scenario. So you load the player, merge the scenario, and then you can run. The beauty of Speel. The game starts. Fossil hunt. You are a paleontologist and are looking for a fossil rumoured to be buried in a remote valley. On a plain, west lie high mountains, you can go south. To the west lie high mountains is a special description. And let's go south from the plain. And we're on a plain. Oh, there's a boat here. We like boats. Let's head east from the plain. We're on a lake. We cannot swim and swiftly drown. So let's head south on a plain with a special description. Let's head south on a plain. There's a boat. We can go south. Let's take the boat first. Always handy having a boat. Let's head south. We are a mountains. The mountains were meant to be impassable. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the code to stop you going into impassable terrain. And there's nothing in the scenario maker to stop you creating exits to impassable terrain. Fortunately, you can fix it quite easily in the data statement, which I've done. But that's going to be a problem as you get bigger and more detailed grids, because it's going to be more complicated to work out which places you have to enter. So we're going to fix that, first of all in the data statements, and then in the scenario maker itself.
Word up! If you buy this amazing book, even you can write an amazing adventure. Thanks to the amazing Bob Speel. Yo!
So this is the slightly improved scenario maker of S. Robert Speel, and we're pitching an adventure, calling it Tic-Tac-Toe Quest, which is American for noughts and crosses. And on the left, you can see we have drawn a very simple plan of our adventure. So after the title, we asked to give ourselves an introduction. Our introduction is, you awake to find yourself on a noughts and crosses board. Two sides are locked in eternal conflict, and it's up to you to bring peace to the land, or something like that. With a lot of these adventures, the plot is something of an afterthought. How many sudden death location types? Well, in this game, there are none. The board is fairly open to move around, so there are 0 sudden death location types. These are treated specially by the game. And how many location types? Well, it's a simple game. They've only got 2. There are two types of location in our tic-tac-toe quest, and the first type is just space. It's a normal space you can move into, and the game needs to know, do you go on it, in it, or can't enter it, and this is for the use of the preposition when it builds the description. So you go on a space, you can dig on a space, you don't need any object to enter, and the second type is the middle. The middle of the board, I've decided you can't enter it. You can add special descriptions for certain locations, grid or non-grid locations. It's a noughts and crosses, mate. It's a grid. And we know the dimensions of our grid. You're allowed up to 200 locations, 14 by 14 perhaps, limited to 200 based on how it encodes things. So it's 3 locations east-west, 3 locations north-south. It's a square. And then starting in the bottom left location, which is location number 1, want to know what type it is. Type number 1 is a space. There is no special description. Type number 2 is a space, no description. Number 3 is a space, but there is a special description, and it's number 1, the ground is disturbed here. Location 5 is the middle, which is impassable, and 9 is also a space with a special description. Number 2, this is a blank space. Please wait, removing invalid exits. Because it's a grid, you can move around between the spaces, you can't leave the grid, but also you can't move on to impassable locations. We have 2 objects with no special descriptions. The first object is a pencil. It is 10 centimetres long, 1 centimetre wide, 1 centimetre deep, and it weighs 100 grams. It is rigid. It has a resistance of 1, so it's very fragile. You can't eat it though, it's inedible. It has no attack value, no defence value. You can't put anything into a pencil. Is it in a place or an object? You can hide objects inside other objects. This thing is in a place. Place number which place is it in? It's in place number 3, the bottom right hand corner. And then it wants to know, is it on the surface, buried a few centimetres deep, half a metre deep, or buried a metre deep? This is buried very, very close to the surface. Object 2 is going to be our main weapon for the game. So what will be useful in a noughts and crosses adventure? That will be a rubber, except that might sound rude to our American colleagues. So we're calling it an eraser. And this eraser, it's 30 centimetres long and 10 by 10, and it weighs about a pound. It's rigid, it's a very solid rubber. Resistance is how often you can use it before it breaks. This is our main weapon. That's going to be 30 times. You can't eat it. The attack value is 9. It's an excellent weapon. It's moderately good at defense. It's got 3. And again, it's in a place or an object. We're choosing a place, and we're placing it in location 7, which is top left. And it's on the surface. They want to know how many monsters there are. There's not in total, but this is how many types of monster. There are 2 types of monster in this game. The first one is a naught, and we need to know, given an attack value from 1 to 8, so 6 is pretty strong. Defense value of 1 is rubbish in defense, and resistance is in the middle. It doesn't have any treasure when it drops coins. Location is any location, and you can have multiple copies of the monster, there are 4 of them. And the other monster is a cross. It's less good in attack, but much better in defense. Again, it's got treasure and can be in any location. And again, there are 4 of them because we are locked in combat. Where do you start? We start bottom left, which is location number 1. Victory conditions. You can have a number of coins needed for victory, which could be 0. In this case, it's 25. You have to kill enough monsters to get that many. You can have multiple objects needed to win. In this case, it's 1 object, and it's the first object, the pencil. We have to find a location to win, which is location number 9, the top right, with the pencil, and with 25 grounds in our pocket. We don't have to kill any particular monster.
I'm the foremost warrior of the Wasteland. I have killed phosphor dogs, madmen, and cybernetic uber beasts. Where's my quest today?
Today you're going on a journey to a tic-tac-toe board.
A giant mint.
No, it's American for noughts and crosses.
You're making me very cross.
That's the spirit.
You cannot be serious.
Be a good warrior. Don't sulk.
Oh, Alright then.
So this is Tic-Tac-Toe Quest Deluxe. This is my fancified version. I've not done a great deal to it to make it fancy. I've just given it a loading program, so you can load it nicely. This is merged, the data merged the player program, but the loader program sets up a loading screen and an attractive font for use in the game. I think it's, with text adventures, you can't do a lot with the graphics, but having a useful font that's still legible is always nice. And I've given it a little loading screen. I like doing loading screens. And this one, as you'll see, depicts the world of Tic-Tac-Toe Quest. We have a limitless plain with some hills in the distance, a bright shining sun, and of course the Noughts and Crosses board. And of course it's Tic-Tac-Toe Quest, created with Bob Speel's Anarchy. Hi Bob, in case he's watching. This is the code that detects monsters. If there are no monsters in the game, then we just return. Otherwise, we go through each monster, checking the current location, PL, against the location of the monster, which is a offset 16 in the monster array. Unfortunately, there's no code here to cater for location 0. You can never go to location 0, therefore you can never meet any monster. How could this be fixed? You could decide that there is a 1 in location chance of it existing. However, what if, say, you had a large area of sea in which you might have a shark, and then in addition you had land-based areas? So at 0, the shark may then turn up in the jungle or in the volcano or something, which just wouldn't make any sense. So ideally 0 would have special code that would cater for the type of terrain you want to put it in. So rather than it being in location 3, it's in the sea. But that's outside the scope of this video. And here we are. We awake to find ourselves on a Noughts and Crosses board, two sides locked in eternal war. And straight away, we've gone north, and we find ourselves facing a cross. I've attempted to draw a cross in 3D style, which I think works reasonably well. And the cross is approaching me, and I have to try and punch it to death. Because this is what life is like in the professional world of Noughts and Crosses. And it's grievously wounded. And I'm rather battered though, so it's, think Frank Bruno fighting a giant X. Cross of St. Andrew perhaps. But I've killed it. And after the victory tune, I get to pocket 10 crowns, and we see on the floor a hot cross bun. This sort of treasure a cross would drop. I added some extra bits to the game after playing it a few times. Notice you added some food, one of which is a hot cross bun, with the description being spicy, fruity and tasty, because I am now about to die. So by eating this hot cross bun, I get to restore my strength. Well, I go north, and there's the eraser. We mentioned the eraser was the best weapon, but as a player, how do you know this? But if you look at the eraser, I've added a description of it, and for some reason it seems like an ideal weapon. Blatant clue, that. Blatant clue. So now we can head east. Lots of spaces around. This space is blank. Very curious. What's our score? 33%. We've now moved on to the south of the board, and there's a cross here. The ground is disturbed, and we're going to try and hit it with the eraser. And I've done a lot of damage immediately. And I've killed it. This is why they made a film called Eraser, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he was wielding a giant rubber. So now I've got lots of gold, 30 crowns, 33%, so I've got enough money to win. So let's now dig. With your hands, you can only dig very shallow. Fortunately, whatever's there is shallow, which is this pencil. No, don't take penis, take pencil, dear boy. So now look at this pencil. It's sharp but fragile. Again, blatant clue, do not use as a weapon. Move around some more, and we have a naught now. Again, a sort of 3D effect. This is using the curves, which is what I added to the S. Robert Speel drawing system. It doubles the length of the string, but gives you a bit more flexibility. I'm going to hit this naught with an eraser. Killed it. That's what you want. 2 blows, no messing about. And there's on the ground a do naught. What is a donut? Well, it's a type of food, but I added something where the donut has a mysterious filling. I decided that some foods had a chance of being poisoned. And finally, we go north to the space, top right hand corner, successfully achieved our aim, and bring peace to the land with our pencil. So I think now we can look at a more advanced game.
I really like Text Adventures. They're brilliant. Thanks to Bob Speel's book, I can write my own. Crikey!
The first thing you're going to need is an idea. Get yourself a nice comfortable writing desk, sit yourself down and gather some inspiration. Clear your mind, let the inspiration flood in. I've always been interested in stories of lost cities, and these translate quite well into a text adventure. You have the journey to find it, dealing with what you find there, and then making it home with the treasure, with 3 different phases of the game. What tools do we have to use in the anarchic system? We have monsters, we have instant death rooms, we have rooms that require objects, we have buried objects, and we have objects inside objects. We cannot add new verbs, we can't add new exits or change where exits go, and we can't change objects into other objects. We can't have objects having longevity unrelated to digging or fighting. For example, if you had a lamp, we cannot give it batteries that will run out. Maybe start with a bit of a map. What areas are you going to have in the game? Well, we need a lost city. You need to start somewhere. You're not going to start in the lost city, so perhaps some kind of coastal town where maybe you'll find yourself on holiday. And then you've got the stuff between the lost city and the coast. Or jungles, swamps, caves, rivers, waterfalls. What sort of monsters might you find in the South American rainforest? Well, piranhas, condors, jaguars. What kind of deaths might you have? You could have drowning, rockfall, poison dart. 108! I had an idea to put some mazes in where you had to follow a very specific path to get through. I was going to put 3 mazes in, and for the first one, taking the wrong step would send you back to the start. For the others, though, a misstep would be fatal. Fortunately, I remembered that I find these things to be really annoying. But what if there was some kind of way to make them easy? In one of my basic books, I came across conditional strings, where you can change the content of a string based on other variables. So why not use the location descriptions in the anarchic system for this? It doesn't work, but the idea is sound. The problem is that the description array is loaded when you run the game, so then the description would never ever appear. However, you can make a very small change to the player program. It does make the game slightly slower, but does allow this to work. So back to these mazes. We're using a non-grid system, so we have the advantage of entering every exit manually, correct? Not quite. Bob is a very sensible man. And therefore, if you go south from location 1 to reach location 2, then from location 2 you would go north to location 1. What if it was meant to be a one-way system? You could have to edit the data statements. One of the advantages of the anarchic system was the more realistic inventory system. Instead of a fixed number of objects, let's say 10 objects, each object had bulk and weight, and you couldn't carry too much. But this wasn't really taken advantage of in the published scenarios. So in this one, I created several heavy or bulky objects and made it so you couldn't carry everything at once. You need inventory management, and I wasn't sure until I actually played the game whether the game was even completable. You will definitely need to do back and forth transporting of items. This leads us to a problem. Transporting items through mazes, going forward with the correct items, it tells you where to go. But on the return journey, it won't tell you where to go, and you can't just go the opposite direction of where it's telling you, because they go twisty, and turny. So I decided to add a one-way shortcut in one location, and then justify this with some location descriptions, so you know it's there, and it makes sense in universe. Entering the data statements from my screenshots took me 90 minutes. I then had to make doubly sure that the connections between locations were correct, especially as I had to change some of them. So I merged in this line to make things easier, and took notes. All I have to do now is add the graphics for the monsters.
Can you really live without it?
It's using the Bob Speel vector system. You're based on 3 numbers, x, which is -4 to 5, y, -4 to 5, and then a curve. Enter all the data statements. It then builds the string. Display the string on the screen, the length of the string, and a checksum. And this here is the terrifying golden man, the ultimate adversary we're going to face. And we now have to enter this string of data in a separate window. We need 1 data statement per monster. We have 11 monsters. You can get around it temporarily by having data 0, 0, 0 and an empty string. Strange characters, including the graphics 8 character, which looks like a space but is not a space. Once you've entered it, create a variable called endString, just for convenience, and you can then find out the length of said variable, which is the same as what we entered. Then you need to calculate the checksum to make sure that's okay, set total to 0, and then for the length of the string, add whatever the ASCII code for the character is to total, go that for the entire length of the string, and then tell you at the end, and then hope you've got it right. Otherwise, you have to sort of scan and hope to look for the messages there. If you miss out characters, it will go horribly wrong. But we've got it correct. So let's show you all these lovely data statements from 7601 onwards. Aren't these beautiful? You will love these in the game when you play it. And all we need to do now is save this as a scenario, merge it into the player program, and then you get to play the game. Proudly presented in Spieloscope.
Something hidden. Go and find it. Go and look behind the ranges. Something lost behind the ranges. Lost and waiting for you. Go. Make your way through thickets of impenetrable jungle. Will you escape the village alive? Avoid deadly quicksand in the swamp. Brave a labyrinth of underground caves and passages, all alike. Scale rocky mountains swept by icy winds. Only then will you reach your ultimate goal, the fabled lost city of El Dorado. Nearly 80 locations, over 20 objects, 16 death scenes, 11 terrifying monsters, 1 awesome adventure.
Now you too can play El Dorado Quest. Get yourself over to jimblimey.com, find his games archive. You can download all the programs you've seen here. It loads quite comfortably on a Spectrum 48K, as you can see here. Or you can just do speed loading. I have done a nice loading screen. I always think it's nice to have a loading screen. The program needs a loader because I've also given us a nice custom font. We have the standard Snorkel's improvements, things to make things like your life a little bit easier. Just to display things and to make sure the game is actually enjoyable, not annoying. But you see here the lost city of El Dorado with the golden man waiting for you. The sun is setting. There's your thick jungle. Can't you feel the urge to get out there? Can't you feel the urge? And there, on the bottom, we should get access to that with print #0 El Dorado Quest from Bob Speel's anarchic system. After it loads, there's a small pause, and then you find yourself with the introductory text on the beach. What do you do? What do you do?
I've been lost in this valley jungle for weeks. Look at me in the right state. I'll tell you something, I don't think flip-flops are the right choice for exploring the jungle. I did find some gold, but I traded it with a man for a sieve. He told me it was really important, more valuable than gold. I don't know why. Perhaps he thinks I'm going to go fencing or something. Oh. Well, if you'd excuse me, all this running water may make you really need to go. Back in a tick.